This segment is brought to you by Jig Masters. Step up your game with high-quality performance jigs, spinner baits, buzz baits, and more from jigmasters.com. And always, when in doubt, get the jig out.
Welcome to the Bass, Kayak, and Beers podcast on the Paddle and Fin Network. On this podcast, we'll be talking about life and kayak fishing. Every week, we'll have a special guest, whether it's a tournament angler, a content creator, or just a regular guy or girl who just loves to go kayak fishing. So grab a cold beer, sit back, and enjoy the show. Bass, Kayak, and Beers is sponsored in part by Douglas Rod. Go to douglasoutdoors.com to check out their full lineup and locate your nearest authorized dealer.
Yak Gadget, made in America, based outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Yak Gadget offers all kinds of storage accessories, quick mount motor mounts, anchor systems, track mounted accessories, even paddles. Go to yakgadget.com and get your kayak decked out for your next trip out on the water.
The 153 Bait Company, based in Troy, Ohio, make everything from plastics to custom painted hard baits. Hook 'em hard and hook 'em often. All of our baits are made to order and all of our hard baits are hand painted to order. So go to the153anglers.com to place your order today.
Welcome once again, boys and girls, to the Bass, Kayak, and Beers segment on the Paddle and Fin Network. As always, it's a pleasure to be with you guys every week. Just a couple of quick announcements. My segment starting next week is going to air on Tuesday mornings instead of Wednesday mornings. And again, it's going to be in the Paddle and Fin Network. You can find it on YouTube, on Facebook under Paddle and Fin, YouTube channel under Paddle and Fin. We're also going to be on Waypoints as a podcast. The episodes haven't come up yet. I think by next week we'll be live on, when I mean live, we'll start uploading our podcast and I think our videos too. So if you're a fan of Waypoints TV, you can go check us out. By next week, we should be up and running at Waypoints. So again, thank you for being on the show today, guys, and listening. We got a special guest for today. Some of you may not know him, but we're going to have an interesting subject to talk about. And we got Charlie Wells here to join us today. And again, we're going to be jumping into that rabbit hole of social media and kayak fishing. I promise you, from what me and Charlie were talking about in the pre-recording, this is going to be a super fun episode, a lot of interesting stuff. So, Charlie, welcome to the show, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Armando. Thank you so much for bringing me on. I definitely think it is going to be an action-packed show. I'm doing great, man.
I think so, man. Going by the pre-recording, I don't think I'm going to love this episode. I think it's kind of a lot of interesting stuff that we can talk about. But Charlie, before we jump in, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. What do you do for a living? How you got into fishing and then kayak fishing?
Yeah. So for a living, I actually run a marketing agency, and we are think of kind of your typical, when you think of marketing agencies, we run one of those, right? But we do it a little smaller than that. We don't grow a giant team we have to manage, but we do service, kind of mid-level businesses and that $1 to $2 million a year in revenue. And we focus on dealing with their web presence through their website, sometimes social media, but mainly website to marketing automation, digital marketing efforts, campaigns, all of that. And, so you can already tell how, I have a keen interest in how the fishing industry goes, but that's not what I do. I don't work with the fishing industry nor even the outdoors industry, but it definitely plays a little bit of a part in everything I think about when it comes to fishing. In terms of how I got into fishing, it's kind of interesting. I'm born and raised Texan. I like to joke when I meet people, like my wife is Russian. She moved here when she was 12. I'm born and raised Texan, So I actually grew up, I have a small trophy of fishing like as a kindergartner, maybe on out on Lake Fork, basically, and just having memories as a child of fishing. But like so many people I've met nowadays, I didn't fish until I was much later, like late 20s, basically, about 3 years ago. So I would have been early 30s, and I had a rod on a family trip that I got for the kids. And one night after everybody went to sleep, I went back out to the dock and was casting around and got a bite. And I was like, oh, that was fun. And put the rod in the truck, of course. And then when we came back home, I don't know, it was probably a few months later, I was looking at that rod. I was like, I should go fish. So I went to a pond, man, in Allen, Texas. I live in North Texas, and north of Dallas, tons of ponds. And I eventually caught a fish, and that really, solidified the addiction, if you will. And that was late 2018, coming into early 2019. And it's just been you could say an uphill journey, but a downhill slide in regards to me and trying not to fish all the time. So maybe a little bit about kayak fishing in particular. I got tired of fishing from the bank, so I was just beating up ponds, and it was awesome because Texas ponds are loaded with giant fish. It's a pretty bizarre thing that you could go to your neighborhood pond and let your kid, which I've done, let my kid catch like a 4-pounder. It's like, no big deal. You throw it back. But I got a little tired of that. I was thinking like, man, I really want to understand like how I can get into maybe a lake. So I bought a really cheap Ascend DT10T, which is a really small kayak. And I took it out to Lake Ray Roberts on the windiest day possible. And I got blown around. Like, I mean, it was, looking back on it, I've fished a lot of hours on the water on the kayak now. Looking back on it, it was the most dangerous thing I've ever done, probably. Because I had nothing. I had like a cheap life jacket that who knows what it would have done if it did anything for me. No understanding what was going on with water. You know what I mean? It was just a mess. But it also solidified that this is awesome. I can get on the water and go. And so that's been, a key piece to me fishing and continuing to fish is just that ability to get in my kayak, load it up on the trailer, and go anywhere in the state, in the country, put it on a new body of water and start dissecting what to do there. And that's just been amazing for me. So that's what I'm chasing every week.
That's awesome. And it's kind of like, I think, just to throw a number out there, but like, I would say like 7 out of 10 special guests that I have, including myself, have had that story of like, as a kid, you fish with your dad or a family member, your uncle or your grandpa, and then you completely forget about it. And then you pick it up later in life.
Right.
And, it is what it is. Back then, fishing wasn't really cool unless you were fishing with your dad. Now it's like all the rage. Going fishing, kayak fishing, it's like, it's crazy how popular it is right now with the younger crowd, the teens and the preteens and even the late teen guys. And one thing about Texas though that I wish I grew up in Puerto Rico. We didn't have that, but like now high schools and college have like bass fishing tournaments. Yes. And I've heard some of them are starting to do not just bass boat but like kayak fishing tournaments as well. That is awesome, man. To get a scholarship to go to the college just to go bass fishing. I would just go to bass fishing just because.
I'm telling you, that's like I think Chad Hoover mentioned that not too long ago. I was thinking, like, could you imagine going full ride on a kayak fishing scholarship? Like that would be awesome. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's a sign of the time. Where we are, and I think it's incredible. I met a young kid at the ramp just a few days ago, and he had his mom out there, and his mom's like beating this kid's friend up with her words. She's like, "You must be from the city," And I was in a pretty rural area telling this little boy that. But so she asked me a question. I started talking to her, and I'm just thinking, like, man, this mom must be really mean. She goes, I've been taking this boy fishing since he was in diapers. This kid, he comes out here for a whole day. He does nothing but fish. He fishes when it's raining. He will catch anything that he can, and he keeps it all. Brings it home, fillets it. It just gives me the whole story, right? And I was thinking, like, wow, like that's awesome. Like that's what you want to see. Because getting kids outside is an amazing thing. I do that with my own kids, but it's definitely something where whenever I was a kid, my mom wasn't saying, "Hey, let's go fishing." You know what I mean? It wasn't even there, and it has to just be because there's a lure out there for people to come and learn about it online. You know what I mean? Through video, or maybe they saw something on social media, whatever it may be, and that's really driving that, I think, and creating a stir even in that young family scenario.
It is. And Texas is so conducive for that, because when I moved to Texas, I always wonder, like, man, I wonder what the fishing is here. And when I started bank fishing and kayak fishing, it's crazy. Like, I live in the Fort Worth Metroplex, and we get like Little Bear Creek and Big Bear Creek running, underneath the Highway 181. You would have thought you can get like a 4 or 5 pounder below 181, 121, and 183. It's crazy. Even the creeks that run alongside of major highways and back streets, and it's just crazy that you can find fish that size and be able to fish for them and catch them. It's I mean, when it comes to bass fishing, you can definitely say Texas kind of like stands above the rest, especially when it comes to bass fishing. Now, Florida, I know it's also a nice place where you can go, like so many tropical fish and peacock bass and all that. That's also another one. But I've never seen something like Sabine. And I haven't lived in other states other than Puerto Rico, and I mean Puerto Rico is a Commonwealth, but part of the United States, and Texas. So it's mind-boggling to me that you can, such a high populated area with a lot of traffic, and you still go bass fishing and have a day out of it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and not to belabor this point, but in my neighborhood, there's a creek system, that runs through it, and I don't know if you've been to the mountains, and a creek in the mountains, always clean, tons of rocks that run through it. Well, this creek my neighborhood is sitting on rock quarry type, grounds, and so this creek is just nothing but rock, so it stays clean all year round. Who knows what's running off into it, right? But me and the kids, we go down there all the time, and catch tons of bluegill. I mean, it's non-stop bluegill action, right? And so, we walk 100 yards, we can dip our toes into the water, cast a line, catch fish, have an adventure. And, maybe that's unique to Texas, maybe it's not, but Texas definitely offers that type of an availability to fishing for you. There, like you said, there's creeks, there's rivers, there's lakes. But there's even, again, neighborhood ponds that are stocked.
Neighborhood ponds, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just on and on in Texas in terms of fishing and it being what it is. And then, not to mention Texas Park and Wildlife is, the best at what they do. So they make it easy to get out there on these lakes.
And I recently picked up trout fishing.
Yes.
And they stock it on not just like neighborhood ponds, but the Brazos River and the Guadalupe River. They stock them with tens of thousands of fish. I think Guadalupe is like 20,000, and then the Brazos River, they stocked it with almost I think close to 10,000 this year. It's just like, man, even trout fishing you can do here, and even gar, which I've never done, but I mean, you can go literally go to any nearby lake and fish for 4 foot, 5 foot, even 6 foot gar.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, I grew up in this little. When we moved and I graduated out of a town called Crandall, Texas, and Crandall's right on the Trinity, but it's on the part of the Trinity where records size gar are caught all the time. Yeah. And, so now I'm kind of eyeing back over there, looking at that stretch of the Trinity, thinking it's time to go try to get me a good gar. So we'll see. Maybe that'll happen.
They even in downtown Fort Worth, where the Clear Fork, and then forgot the name of the other fork. That's the one one comes from Benbrook, which is Clear Fork, and the other one comes from Lake Worth. Forgot the name of that other one. But where they meet, there's some giant. I've just gone kayak fishing where there's some giant gar there, man. That I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
I was thinking about this Texas thing in fishing, and you were mentioning the Guadalupe. So I got the opportunity to go fish the Guadalupe this year on a multi-day camping trip.
Oh yeah, I saw that video. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. So I have to say, you're talking about chasing guads, the video. The experience of catching these little bass is actually pretty incredible, and it is one of the only places you can catch a guad. And that trip really for me was another solidifying moment for the ability for a kayak over any other fishing vessel to take you to places that nothing else could. And now you kind of need a specific kayak. I can't take my Titan 12 down the Guadalupe at this point, but I was in a new canoe, and it did me so well on that river that I was just blown away by it. But the experience of also catching fish like a Guadalupe bass on a skinny set of water that's running, that was it was a bit of a life-changing moment, if you will, when it comes to my fishing, love, because it was just a blast, man. And then just as a note on that, I actually thought that the Guadalupe was the only river system and its tributaries that held those. And then MLF just went to Travis, and they were catching nothing but Guadalupe bass out there. And I was like, okay, so just so you're looking for some and you're in Austin, go to that lake, and they'll be there for you.
Yeah, I think Lake Travis is Colorado River, right? I'm not.
It is, yeah, it is
Colorado River,
right?
So yeah, I mean, I imagine that at some point they with floods and everything, because when Austin gets flooded, man, I'm assuming there's got to be a crossover where somehow the Guadalupe and the tributaries meet the Colorado River or something, because it gets crazy. Last couple of years, man, Austin has been hit heavily with floods. Right. So yeah, Austin is, I think, I wouldn't say underrated, but it's definitely, I mean, some of the best bass fishing, whether it's quad spotted or largemouth bass, even smallmouth bass. I mean, Austin really has, like, Central Texas, that area is just bass fishing heaven.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much to offer. I've yet to catch a smallmouth bass. You know what I mean? I've been fishing for, now almost a little over 2 years now. So, still haven't caught one. It's kind of lack of trying, but at the same time, just so much going on, so many different things to fish. It's almost like you're just working all the time to go catch that next thing, like getting on a striper bite. Love to do that. I think I know that I've seen you getting on some striper here and there.
Yeah, I love it. I want to go. And I was telling a good friend of yours, Brandon, from that bass fishing dude, man. He says, man, we got to go. I got to take you to the Brazos River, man. Because it's the Brazos Rivers, you can fish for trout. You can fish for smallmouth bass. You can fish for largemouth bass, and you can fish for stripers. And it's all the way from the PK Dam, right, all the way down. I mean, you can make a 2-3 day trip out of it. Right. And it's awesome, man. I wouldn't say it's easy, because bass fishing is never easy, but there's a good chance you're gonna catch a limit. Yeah. When you go to the Brazos River, I mean, even if you're not an expert, it's one of my favorite rivers to fish, man.
Absolutely,
it's a huge striper down there.
Yeah, it's high on our list. I'm sure you've heard. We're ready to go. I told Brandon, since he's on the NRS fishing team, I told him, I said we need to get on the Brazos trip that NRS does every year. So let me know when we're going on that one. I'll be glad.
NRS does a Brazos trip.
They've done it out there a few times. Yeah, I don't know all the details. I mean, I don't know the details, but I do know that their content has had several trips on the Brazos.
Yeah, I know Matt Scotch does the Lone Star River Guide, Kayak Fishing River Guides. But I think he does it more out of Whitney, which is also great. Still, Brazos River, also a great spot. Bass, top water, frog fishing heaven, man, below Whitney Lake. You just have to watch out for the water release, because it's not like Brazos River where it's more consistent. Whitney has his own thing, man. So just watch out for that. But it is great for top water. I love that area as well. I haven't gone as much as I would like to. So we're talking about the chasing quads and some of the videos you've worked with. You kind of like, tell us a little bit about that and your relationship with Brandon from that bass fishing dude. For those that don't know who Brandon is, his brand is called That Bass Fishing Dude, and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And you and him have worked a lot on videos and stuff like that. What's your relationship with him, as far as your friendship and the way that you go about putting content out there? Because I say this, and for those that haven't watched it, Brandon, I remember his first video that I think he did with you was called The Creeker. You worked with on that video, right? That was
the first. Yeah, we had done a little bit of photo stuff before that, but that was the first video we've done.
And the quality of video from what he was doing there to when he joined you, and not to take anything away from Brandon, but obviously you're my special guest today, and we'll not talk about what you're doing more than anything. But obviously it kind of goes hand in hand with what Brandon is doing, just because a lot of the creative juices come from your input, and we saw a leap in his quality of content with that Creeker video, which was a 5-minute video. And I don't remember if you caught anything on that video, but I do remember the quality of the editing and just the shots and the zoom in, zoom out, all that technical stuff that I have no idea how you call all that. I know the term B-roll is thrown out like that, and you can explain it better than me. But the editing and the quality of it was just, to me, was like, man, this is really good. This is better than most YouTubers are doing out there.
Right. Yeah, no, yeah. So one, we would appreciate such things being said for sure. We'll come to Brandon here in a minute, but really, what happened is when I started fishing, I loved fishing, but I had this interest as a marketer to understand influencer spaces, right? So I had really studied kind of what people in the car industry were doing before fishing was cool. The car scene was really cool on YouTube. It still is to this day. It's actually it's kind of in its maturity, so you can look there to see where fishing influencers are going. But I saw, because I was loving fishing, I was like, this is kind of a disruptor space. I want to start knowing more about what's behind the scenes here in terms of business and whatnot. And so what I did was I started trying to fish with people. And I fished with another well-known person here in Dallas, and was starting to ask some of these questions, just in general about like, hey, like, what's the data look like? I was asking really, kind of formal businessy type questions, and they were like, what do you think? I don't really know. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really that thing. So a buddy of mine had won some baits from Brandon actually on one of his giveaways. It was a BioSpawn giveaway. A buddy of mine won it. And then at the same time that was happening, me and my daughter were out fishing a local lake here. And I had a Jackson at the time, and she was on the kayak with me. We were just paddling around. And we came across Brandon. He lost the reel cover on his tranks, and so he was heated. Like, he was super heated. Like, I was like earmuffing my daughter, And I said, hey, well, it's a clear water lake, so we'll help you look around for it. Nothing to be seen. It's a super grassy lake. Couldn't find it. But I didn't say anything. I don't think at the time I knew exactly who he was. I can't remember for sure on this. But I had dropped my net that day, and he had found it coming back. So I had a buddy who won his BioSpawn, giveaway, and then I also at the same time ran into him at the lake and lost my net. And all this happened at about the same time. And so I